my beautiful best friends, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you guys 10 books that made me fall in love with reading again. And honestly, I've had a journey with books. I loved them as a kid. I was a major bookworm. But then slowly as I got older, reading became more of an academic duty for me rather than actually enjoying it. So in my healing era, I decided to get back into reading. And these are the 10 books that kind of plummeted my obsession now. And without further ado, let's get into these books. First few copies I have are on my Kindle. If you have ADHD, you tend to invest in a lot of hobbies that you don't really continue with. So I decided to actually purchase a few books on my Kindle first, see if I like the feel of it. And honestly, truly, I prefer fiction books on my Kindle because then I can like read and multitask rather than carrying like a book around. And sometimes if I see the thickness of a book, although I do love the smell of new books, it does get intimidating if I'm just like, you know, my overthinking brain kind of freaks out. I honestly recommend starting off with the romance genre because for me it is light, fluffy, and a quick read sometimes, and then you'll get the feel of whether you kind of like reading, you're still not into it, and that's okay if you're not. But the first book I want to talk about, why am I holding two fingers? The first book I want to talk about is Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. I feel like everyone and their mother is talking about this book, and honestly the hype is real. This book is so amazing. It hits the nail on the head. If you love romantic comedy movies, I love movies. This is essentially about Wes and Liz, and Wes is kind of like a football player and Liz loves romantic comedy movies. Check out trigger warnings, but essentially it's like enemies to friends to lovers. She makes references to each romantic comedy throughout each chapter, and it's like a blend of my two worlds into one. Obviously it's cheesy and you can predict it, but with that being my first book, I flew through that within 2 days, which was shocking. So if you want a nice fluffy YA romance, this is it. Obviously I'm kind of holding back from telling the whole storyline because I feel like it's kind of like a movie trailer. Sometimes they put too much in the storyline and then spoil it. So I'm just gonna leave it at that. The next book I want to talk about is Abby Jimenez's Part of Your World, where Ali and Daniel, she is a sophisticated city girl with a high paying job, and she has like, you know, a high stakes job as an ER nurse, and he runs a bed and breakfast in a small town. So it's essentially a meet cute and how that led into serious decision makings. Abby Jimenez's books flow so beautifully. I feel like there's never a lull in her stories. She just hits the nail on the head. Her books can be very light and fluffy but also cover deeper topics. So I suggest you look up trigger warnings just in case. That's always like a new thing I recommend people who are getting back into reading, because sometimes things like these can catch you off guard. For me, this is like beyond 5 stars. It's like a 6-star read. That's why I highly recommend this book. This is where things get interesting for me because I decided to go beyond the genre of romance and into the world of literary fiction. I think this is what it's called, but essentially The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo is highly acclaimed for a reason. It was a hard read. Now, you have to stick through the first 100 pages, but after that, it ends up becoming quite fast-paced, and it's hyped up for a reason again. So essentially, this is about a Hollywood starlet, Evelyn Hugo. I think this was during the time of the 60s, where I just imagined Marilyn Monroe, obviously. Monique Grant, an unknown reporter, was hired to interview her, and this is where she spills all the secrets about her personal life. I don't want to spoil too much because this book was again quite unpredictable, and each character was so complex, and there was a diverse range of characters, and she touched on really sensitive issues in the best way possible. So if you guys are ready to travel back in time and just explore a different type of book, then I highly suggest this. I thought I'd pick something from each genre that I actually loved. I was gonna read Fourth Wing, and I did start Fourth Wing, but for me this book kind of came at the right time, and this is Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. I I'm definitely butchering that. This is like a fantastical, low stakes, cozy fantasy. It was an easy read and flowed really well. So this is essentially about Viv, who is giving up her life of adventure and battle to open up a coffee shop. And honestly, you'd love this even more if you love coffee, aka me. I love coffee, and this is the perfect like coffee shop book because like you get the fresh smell of the coffee brewing plus this. I don't know, it just made me appreciate it so much more. And then the prequel is about her opening up a bookshop. It's like you can't say no to this series, so I highly recommend, and now I am definitely on my way to reading Fourth Wing. Then the last fiction I want to talk about is again on my Kindle, and this was A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. Essentially, it's about Pip, who opens up a local case which multiple people have closed. So essentially, she, for a class project, decides to do a podcast reopening the case and solving it for herself. I love this book. It was the perfect combination. It felt like a grown-up Geronimo Stilton. It's like I felt like I was reading those books again. It wasn't like creepy and thrilling to the extent of a Frida McFadden book, but it's like you were solving the mystery with her, which I loved. It was fast-paced. Again, did not predict the ending. I kind of switch up between unpredictable and predictable books just to, you know, pace them out a little bit and not get too tired, because I like to keep myself on my toes a little bit. Just a little bit, not too much. But those are all my fiction books. If you're just here for the fiction books, thank you so much for watching. But if you're here for non-fiction, let's hop into them. Again, this is in no particular order, but let's hop into the first non-fiction book, being Norse Mythology. If you are like me and love Marvel movies, aka Thor, Chris Hemsworth, this book just expands the world building that has already been built by Stan Lee, R.I.P. Stan Lee, Excelsior. That was so unnecessary. See how my brain works? It's like, anyway. So this is like folklores and tales about Thor, Loki. Can I just confess? I think I'm gonna confess this, but I just imagine Chris Hemsworth and Tom Hiddleston. This book is amazing. I have read this twice now, because I watched the movie twice in a row, like the trilogy twice in a row. So I highly recommend if you guys love the MCU. I'm so glad that I read this, and this just enhanced my viewing experience. So I read this book for the first time this year, Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. When I tell you this has educated me far beyond I could ever imagine. I've studied negotiations at Berkeley, and they refer to the class that I took. And they just shouted all over it and was like, this is what you're really meant to do. Essentially, this is about what Chris Voss, who was an FBI hostage negotiator, has learned throughout his years of being in high-stakes situations, and how you can apply that to getting a new job, negotiating salaries, negotiating deals to get what you want. I flew through this in like a day and a half, which is insane for me. Everyone and their mother probably saw this coming, but this is Atomic Habits by James Clear. So I love this book because it really does help you break bad habits and build good ones. Other self-development books I've read veer on the lines of, this is what you need to do, all this like BS they go on about, but they don't give a reasoning behind it. Whereas James Clear, Mr. Clear, gives scientific backing behind it, and that's how my brain works. Like, I'm just like always like a why person. So he gives scientific backing, and honestly, it's a book I can read over and over again. I'm looking forward to rereading this and annotating it. So if you guys are looking for a good, succinct way or reason to build good habits, I highly, highly suggest it. So the second to last book is called 100 Essays That Will Change the Way You Think. I have read this once over, and some of these notions I agree with, and some of them I 100% do not agree with. But I love this book, and I think everyone should read this because this book helps add a new perspective to your life. If you are an only child like me and only have the perspective of your parents and the way they were brought up, I mean, you know, you only have their opinion as a Gen Zer, which is not always the best. If you guys want help in navigating mental health, the way you think about life, the way you navigate life, this book is amazing. And you will know when something isn't gonna agree with you and isn't part of your ethics and morals, because you read it and go, child. Anyway, so this book has helped me in so many ways in terms of self-development and spiritual development. And I'm not a spiritual person, if that makes sense. I don't think that does. For me, this is way better than Dolly Alderton's book, because some of the stuff, actually 80% of the stuff, I can't relate to Dolly Alderton's stories. I highly recommend this. This is more universal. And last but not least, we have a personal favorite. I don't know when I bought this, like back in 2017. Yeah, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. Like seriously, this book changed the game for me. I have reread this book so many times. Like this book it's like someone coming up to you and giving you a slap on your face, like wake the hell up. And I have to note, with all these books, you need to be in the right mindset. You can't force yourself to read a nonfiction. You kind of have to want to. So with this book, you have to be in the right mindset, as I say for the 5th time in a row. But essentially, he teaches you how to accept hard truths in life and how to seriously like not give a fuck about people, go about your daily life, function like a person, as well as recalibrating our values in life and how to navigate friendships and how people think of you and how you think of others and the world. Obviously, not all self-help books are as great as this. Thank you guys for staying tuned to the very end. I would love it if you guys would leave any recommendations, both non-fiction and fiction, down below. I would love it if you guys would like and subscribe to see more content from me. And I will see you besties in the next video. Bye!